Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. Happy Tuesday. Josh Mansfield is here. I am Charlie Eisenhood. Thank you so much for being with us. We got a fun little show for you today. We're going to kind of look ahead to 2022 and do some either-ors. Talk about some players head-to-head on various topics and try to keep it fun and snappy for you on this holiday week. So I hope everybody's having a great week as we get ready for Thanksgiving. Tomorrow in our subscriber bonus segment, we'll be talking about some things that we are thankful for, and we look forward to hearing from our listeners in Thursday's show for what they are thankful for. Again, send in what you're thankful for. Just record it into your phone. Send it over to upshot@ultiworld.com. Doesn't have to be much. 10, 20, 30 seconds, whatever you got. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks to those of you who have already sent stuff in. So let's jump right into it, Josh. We're going to just kick it right off. Big one right off the bat. Who is going to have the better overall 2022 season? And I leave that in sort of a general context. You know, how just with majors, Pro Tour, the whole thing combined, however you want to look at it. Is it going to be Paul MacBeth or Rickie Wysocki? Let's just kick it off right there with that.
It's so hard to answer this, and maybe I'm qualifying it because I feel like every time I pick Rickie, he does bad, but I'm going to do it again. I feel Paul MacBeth underperformed the season relative to his own standards. I think USDGC really was a big boost for him. But there's something about Rickie and his progression since he's come back from the Lyme disease. And he comes back every season better than before. And we talked about it this year. We're like, oh, this is prime Rickie, right? This is Rickie back when he won 2 world championships. I think there's another level that Rickie is going to reach. I don't think he's done. And I think that Rickie is going to have the better season next year.
I think we could be in potentially for a vintage MacBeth Rickie year. I think we could, to be honest. I mean, I know how good Eagles playing right now. There's more guys up at the top than ever. It's been really exciting, but I don't know. I get a spidey sense. I'm going to pick MacBeth. Okay. I think that what we saw late season from MacBeth gives me a lot of confidence in what he's going to be able to do next year. Yeah. And I think he's probably going to take away some lessons from this season about, where the focus needs to be. Mm-hmm. And he really did look very, very good down the stretch. He was in the Final Four for the Pro Tour Championship, obviously won USDGC, should have won Worlds. He was great in the big spots. He was better than Rickie at the majors, period, he was. Point blank. So I'm going to take MacBeth, but I think it's a fascinating one. And I think you're right that Rickie's been playing superb and, had that incredible stretch early in the season. And probably was the overall most impressive player in 2021. We'll see if he can back it up in 2022. Next one. Better overall season. Kona Panis or Missy Gannon?
So I'm gonna give you a stat. Let me pull it up real quick. I screenshotted it because I knew this was gonna come in handy. I didn't know we were gonna do this segment, but I knew this was gonna come in handy. Statmando.
You had the stat.
I
in your
did.
mind.
I saw it. I was like, I need this. Statmando coming in clutch here. They put out a bunch of really cool stats just recently about overall season finishes and such. The best disc golf pro tour average round rating improvement in 2021 from 2022. First was Leah Sinagini with 47 rating points better. Amazing improvement. So congratulations Excellent. To Leah. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Second, though, and I never would have expected this, was Kona Panis at 25 points.
Wow.
Her average round rating was 25 rating points higher in this season than it was in 2020.
That's kind of crazy. I mean, I think everybody understands that she played better, but that's a lot.
It's better. A lot better. And I don't think we've seen ceiling Kona yet at all. I think we talked a lot about the little things that we've seen Kona improve on and is working on. I think I'm going to pick Kona. And Missy coming after winning 2 majors, I know, throw pink majors, whatever. After winning 2 majors, it might seem a little crazy to pick against Missy. But
both of those majors are in quotes, by the way. Pro Tour Championship also in quotes.
Forget they both are. I did it for the Pro Tour Championship, and then the throw pink. I was like, yeah, it's a major. So Missy wins 2 majors, double quotes. I'm picking Kona. I think Kona is about to show us something special. The rate of her improvement, I don't think is going to slow down by any means. And I know it's harder to grind those, the difference between 950, 920 to 950 and 950 to 960 are 2 very different worlds. And I don't know where Kona's at in rating. Those are just numbers I was picking, but I think Kona's going to do it. I think Kona she's got it.
I mean, look, it's a simple fact. Kona has to get the putter going.
Yes.
That's it. I'm sorry. That's it. Her ceiling is higher than Missy Gannon's because she can throw further. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. But she cannot putt. And so therefore you have to fix that if you want to take that next step. Mm-hmm. So if you believe that she can, and I think that she can, then absolutely.
Yeah.
Missy obviously playing really great at the end of the season. We saw a ton of improvement from her as well. And it's a tough pick between the two of them, but I'm going to take Missy until I see the putting improve for real. I don't feel like I can confidently say that Kona Panis is going to have the consistency necessary to finish higher.
Fair.
That's
a completely understandable pick.
What's the next one, Josh?
Next one's up for you. We're going to look at some Europeans. Vaino Makala or Nicholas Antila?
Better season. Wow. Wow. I'm going to say Nicholas Antila.
Okay.
I think we saw him go out there and win the most important tournament of the season. Mm-hmm. He's so young and still getting better. Got the new contract, ready to, locked and loaded to just focus on disc golf, come over to the U.S. and start competing. I think that we'll look back and say that this was the year that he really inflected and became the clear number 1 European MPO player. Simon Lizotte not included.
I think Vaino Makala is going to take it, and I feel like the Nicholas Antila story here, and I really am not just picking it for interesting. Like I actually was going to pick Vaino. I think the reason why though, I think that this is the year. Like the year where we're like, oh, Eagle's going to have a good year, but it still belongs to MacBeth and Wysocki. Like that's how I feel. And Tila's going to have a good year, and he is going to establish himself as the best European player in a couple of years. But I think that Vaino Makala has been tested and proven himself more so than Antila has, and has played your U.S. events more, if I remember correctly. And I
think that's for sure.
I think him coming over and doing the tour is just going to be his element. Give Antila a year or two, but this year is Vaino's.
All right, next one. I'll stay on this topic one more. Better overall season, Kristen Tatar or Paige Pierce? This was a fun little storyline this season. What's happening in 2022?
I'm going to pick Kristen. And I think that the definition of a better season is going to be a little bit skewed in this one. I think if Kristen can take down 1 or potentially 2 of the important, big majors, and U.S. Women's is an important major, but I think that if she can win European Open, like that, European Open or Worlds, those are the kind of tournaments that I think would be amazing for. Kristen has won U.S. Women's before. She has that under her belt. I think if she wins Throw Pink, Worlds, or European Open, those tournaments really establish her and continue to add to what I think is an already impressive resume. But most importantly, it diminishes and continues to make us ask the question of, well, Paige now lost Worlds again, and I don't know in what fashion, right? But I think that begins to, given our expectations of Paige and the pressures that we put on Paige, I think for Kristen to come in and beat her at Worlds at a course that Paige has historically played very well at Emporia, the Dynamic Disc Open, it would be just a storyline that rocket and propels Kristen's season in a way that I think Paige would have a hard time catching.
You're telling me a nice story about how this could happen in some theoretical sense. But like fundamentally, I think this is a great year to bet on Paige because she is undoubtedly the most talented FPO player on the planet. Still is. That's just a fact. And yeah, she had some bad tournaments. She had some terrible rounds. Like there's no question about it. But she also had stretches where she was absolutely untouchable and would have beaten anyone who showed up, including all of the top European women. And I just think that Paige is going to come off of a year like this and refocus on her game. And it's an opportunity to maybe step back from all of the, sponsorship stuff that you have to focus on. I think this is the kind of thing that makes players understand, hey, I need to figure out somebody else to handle all this stuff for me because I shouldn't be the one having to do it all myself. So, I think that clearly there are multiple players who can absolutely compete with Paige when Paige isn't playing her best. When Paige is playing her best, she does not lose. I'm sorry. It's just true. And I think that this is a great year to bet on Paige, and I'm going to bet on Paige because after a season like this is the kind of things that make you regress back towards your mean, and her mean is very high.
It's true. It's good. Very reasoning.
What do we got next?
All right, we're going to move to a different question now. Bigger bounce back. And these are two different reasons for bounce back, but I think equally valid. Simon Lizotte or Nate Sexton? Simon coming off injury, Sexton coming off a hiatus from tour for family reasons.
Both had some good moments this season.
Did.
I mean, Nate Sexton played great at Worlds. And really, when he was playing was pretty good most of the time. I mean, but also had tournaments where he didn't play that great. Simon, didn't play for a long time. And then when he did play was solid, if not spectacular. And ultimately, I think very disappointing, right? He misses the Pro Tour Championship, and some of it was out of his own control because he couldn't make the last couple tournaments. Was it GMC that he missed because he was like stuck in Canada
or
MVP? Something?
I think it was MVP he missed, but yeah.
Yeah. And so, he ends up missing out on the Pro Tour Championship. And that's obviously disappointing. So, I think both players clearly have the tools to have a significant bounce back. I figure Nate Sexton tours more next year. I figure Simon plays more next year. I'm going to take Simon with the bigger bounce back, though. I think that, another few months of time off, rehab, etc., he's going to get to a point where he at least knows what he's capable of in his game. And, when he's able to play consistently, I think is still like a top 15, top 10 guy. And I mean, you could say the same thing about Nate Sexton. But Nate Sexton has been trending towards touring less in general. And, even absent COVID issues, which I hope we're there next year, still could be a little tricky to just see him out at enough tour stops to feel like he's bouncing back. So I'm going to take Simon with the bigger bounce back.
I agree with you on this one. I think Nate Sexton has so many other avenues in which he can be a part of disc golf and make a lot of money doing it, whether it be commentating, Jomez, all the different ways that he is involved in disc golf that don't require him to play tournaments. I think like you said, the trend is going to continue, that Sexton is going to transition himself to more of commentator roles, analyst roles, support roles, what have you. He'll still tour, he'll still play great, but Simon is poised, I think, to have a really good year.
Next up, bigger bounce back, Thomas Gilbert or Eric Oakley?
I think this one is really interesting because it's a story of like two opposite ends in terms of like how long they've been around, right? Thomas Gilbert had a pretty decent season 2 years ago, and then he went to Prodigy, and we were all like, ooh, getting the new fresh face, getting the fresh bag, like looking ready for a good 2021 season, and then played pretty bad. Like,
it's all relative to expectations.
That's true.
He's ranked 39th right now, and he was 23rd in the Pro Tour standings, But I feel like I have to say I agree. I expected more from Thomas Gilbert in 2021. I think he only had 2 top 10 finishes.
Yeah. And it just wasn't what I expected from him. And Eric Oakley, on the other hand, long in disc golf, but feels like he's been declining in terms of his play. And this season...
missed the Pro Tour Championship, finished 38th.
I felt like this season especially was like slow descent into the deep end and then just dropped. The season was not good for Eric Oakley. Eric Oakley getting a new bag, obviously, new sponsor. I'm going to pick Eric Oakley. I didn't think I was going to, but I think that Eric Oakley needed the change of scenery. The change of bag is going to do him well. And I think that he's still got a couple years left in him. And I think that the change in sponsorship is going to do it. So I'm going to take Oakley.
Kind of looking at their stats to see if I can get an edge here in the stats department. I'm going to take Thomas Gilbert. I think peripheral stats show that he's just the better overall player. And if he picks up the putting, which was 64th and 50th, Circle 1X and Circle 2 respectively, that he can shave those strokes and really start to pick it up. He actually had like a pretty good birdie rate. He just bogeyed a little too much. He was 171st in OB rate, Thomas Gilbert was. That is not good, right? That's like back end of the tour. So, part of that could be getting used to the new bag. Let's be honest. We talk about it. It's like, well, it's the archer, not the arrows. And that's true. But it does take time to transition and get comfortable with your discs. And notably, Thomas Gilbert, had a decent end to the year. He finished 9th at MVP and 19th at GMC. Now, is that because of the style of course? Is that because he's finally starting to feel more comfortable with the discs? I mean, he had moments, right? He was 10th at Portland. Like, he played well on long courses. He played well on wooded courses. So I feel like we saw moments, and if he can put it together, we could see a much better 2022 from him. I mean, I'm just thinking about how well he played in 2020. Why didn't that happen? The obvious culprit is that he wasn't comfortable with the bag, and the OB rate suggests that. I say he bounces back.
All right. So moving to a different question. Who do you think has the better Pro Tour finish between the Mondehanu sisters, Alexis and Valerie? They finished only 6 points apart and were both right next to each other. Only one spot separated them. So who do you think is going to have the better year this year?
Very interesting. Now, I will say Alexis played the extra tournament.
Oh.
She played Idlewild, and I think that's right when Valerie got hurt.
Okay.
And that was a 7th place finish for Alexis. She got 55.5 points for that. Perhaps that was part of the reason. But there were multiple times during the season where Alexis outplayed Valerie. So I think on the face of it, you say Valerie, because I think we saw a higher ceiling from Valerie. We saw her have some moments where it looked like she was about to win a huge tournament. Yeah. And I think that Alexis never really showed us that. I feel like Alexis is a very good disc golfer, but, wasn't ever really in contention to win one of the Elite Series events. So I'm going to pick Valerie, but I think it could be close because it's easy to over remember the players that almost win or who are like showing a higher ceiling and forget that like being consistently super good is also a way towards having a great season, right? Sarah Hokum comes to mind as somebody who's like not necessarily winning a lot, but is like super, super solid, consistent, finished 4th in the Pro Tour this year. So I'm going to say Valerie, but Alexis has a good shot at it.
Well, this was their first year really on tour. And while I think that Alexis is consistently good, as you've said, I think that next year with a season under her belt, Valerie is going to be consistently great. And so I think the consistency is something that now that she's established and played a tour season, one more tour season, and she's going to be amazing, like challenging for wins. And so my pick is Valerie.
Okay. Who's going to have the better Pro Tour finish? Kona Panis, or Heather Young? You were hyping up Kona Panis, so I think you got to double down here, right?
And I'm thinking about it, and the reason I hype up Kona Panis is the same reason I would hype up Heather Young, right? Players who are improving and improving quickly, and I think will continue to improve. I'm not jumping the ship though. I'm sticking with Kona. I really think that Kona is poised for an excellent season, even with the European women coming back. I'm sticking with it. I'm doubling down, and this is definitely the tale of two players if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like opposite strengths and weaknesses. They finished, Kona was 7th, Heather Young was 9th, but Heather Young actually outplayed Kona at many of the events that they both attended. But Heather plays far fewer events, and I think that's the risk. So when we talk about better Pro Tour finish, I think I have to take Kona Panis, because until I see Heather Young actually on full tour, I'm not going to believe that she's going to be able to finish higher than a player who is out there week in, week out. Here's the question. Is it easier to be Heather Young and need to add distance to your drive, or is it easier to be Kona Panis and need to add skill to your putting?
In my experience, and I don't know if this, I think that putting is easier.
I agree.
I think that you can learn to become a good putter through reps.
It's mental.
Yeah, it's in your head, and you can learn to beat that. Distance is a lot harder to grind out and to get good course distance. Like that's hard.
And you know what? Some people have it and some people don't.
Yep.
It's just,
and Kona's got it.
Why can some pitchers throw 97 miles an hour and others can only throw 88? It's not because the guy who throws 88 isn't trying to throw 97. I can go out there and try as hard as I want. I could practice and practice and practice, and I can throw further if I work on my form. If I practice every 3 times a week, I'm at the field, I can throw further. But I'm probably capped at like 450. I just fundamentally, my physiology and genetics are not going to allow me to be a crusher. I just can't do it. Some guys have it and some guys don't. And I just think that like Heather Young doesn't have it. And like she can be a great disc golfer because she has so many other elements of her game that are so good. And I think it's prototype, like people who want to get better, who are, in the 900s or the 800s rated, should look at Heather Young as a blueprint for how to be better. Play smart. Do not go out of bounds. Dial in your approach game and putt great. Yep. You too can get your rating up without having 400 plus feet of distance. It's just a fact. There's so many ways to get better at disc golf. Anyway, so I picked Kona Panis, better Pro Tour finish, but I think Heather Young is a tremendous player who could probably, on average, outperform Kona at the events they both attend.
Great. So I got a fun one for you. Better Pro Tour finish, Big Germ or Paul Ulibarri?
Wow. All right, so let's look at the facts. Okay. Tail of the tape. They both missed the... No, what am I talking about? They both missed the bye to quarterfinals, but they were 19th. Jeremy Colling was 19th. Paul Ulibarri was 20th in Pro Tour standings at the end of the season. They were separated by a mere 3 points and change. So extremely close together. I'm going with Yuli.
Ooh, okay.
I'm going with Yuli. I think Yuli had a bit of a down year relative to his skill. And I think Germ is he's starting to age out of it a little bit of elite performance. Yeah. And I mean, maybe Yuli's getting close to that too, but he's not there yet. So I just think that Yuli's is going to surpass Germ this time around.
Yeah, I mean, Big Germ has dealt with injuries the past couple of years as well, and missed some tournaments due to injuries. And I think the biggest thing, and Germ could probably hear this and be like, that's not even close to true, but Yuli still has 110% confidence in himself and has We were talking to Brian Earhart about, he's like, I just don't have that mentality. I don't have the chip on your shoulder, out for blood mentality. Yuli does. Like, Yuli does, and Yuli's going to until the guy's 95 years old. He's going to be out there like, I can win a world championship. And it's going to be, okay, Grandpa, thanks anyway.
He's one of those guys who's just good at everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, he is. And he just has that blood in the water mentality. And I think that as they're both getting a little bit older, I think that mentality is going to keep him in the game longer than it will for Germ. And so I agree with you on Yuli.
So just another little point of comparison. Germ was 19th on this year's Pro Tour. He was 19th on last year's Pro Tour standings.
Okay.
Yuli was 20th this year. He was 12th in 2020. Okay. I think that we're going to see more bounce back from Yuli. And I think Germ is where he is.
Yeah.
The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Pound guarantees all of their packs against defects in materials and workmanship for the lifetime of every pack. That's right, lifetime warranty. That's the kind of commitment they have to making a great disc golf bag. Go to pounddiscgolf.com to learn more about their great options. Okay, let's change topics. Let's talk some majors.
Okay.
Who's going to have the higher average finish at the majors in 2022? Kyle Klein or Eagle McMahon?
So,
Kyle Klein had higher average finish in 2021.
Okay.
After finishing second at USDGC, they both finished 8th at Worlds.
Okay. So I find this,
but 4 majors next year instead of just the 2 for MPO.
I find this one funny because when we did Player of the Year comparison, we were like, "Oh yeah, like Eagle did great at everything except the majors where he kind of sucked." It makes me think. It feels like we're looking, and this is something historically we've always talked about. We've always talked about Eagle just cannot show up and perform at the majors. The fact that guy has not won USDGC, given his skill set, and I know USDGC is about precision, but it's called the forehand player's dream, and that guy can throw a forehand farther than anybody else on tour without a doubt, and he still can't win it. It shows that majors are just not his strong suit, I guess.
I mean, maybe. It also just is maybe a little bit of randomness. I mean, he's still typically finishing in the top 10. It's not like he's finishing 30th.
You're right, but I will say you are the quickest one out of us to point out things like superstition and the snake bit lions, and you name it. You are a sports bettor, and you think about that way more than I do, and I'm thinking about that thing. So I have to take Kyle Klein here. I think he showed a lot of promise and potential, and I think that he has all the skills necessary to take down Eagle, and I think he'll do it next year. I think, sorry, Eagle.
Bonus question: do you think he has a better season than Eagle?
No,
not just major.
No, I don't. I think Eagle has the better season.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, look, I'll take Eagle.
Okay.
I'll take Eagle here. I think that the progression we've seen from Eagle continues to point towards him being the most gifted player on tour. Mm-hmm. He can throw the furthest on tour. I mean, he had that 700-foot drive at match play that was just ridiculous, dude. Ridiculous.
The airtime on that disc.
And yes, has he maybe underperformed his standard a little bit at majors? You can't say that he hasn't. Of course he has. He needs to win a USDGC or a Worlds. Konopishte is not enough. So I think, though, that he's going to get there. And the venues are good for him this time around.
That's true.
Right? We're going to see a long, challenging Jones Gold course at DDO, or at Worlds in Emporia. And then, of course, USDGC, which I do think is a track that is suited to his game. I don't know as much about WR Jackson
I don't think so.
For Champions Cup. But then European Open, like
he's
ultra long, big, pretty fairways. Feels like Portland Open a little bit. A tournament that he won.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that Eagle's going to do. I think this is the year that Eagle is going to like really establish himself as somebody who's competing for the wins at majors regularly.
I hope you're right.
So we'll see. Okay.
All right.
What's next?
Last one I got for you. Higher average finish at majors, Missy Gannon or Evelina Salonen?
I think this is too easy. Evelina. Missy Gannon's great, but like people forget how good Evelina Salonen is. I mean, we're talking about probably the best player in Europe, right? All the hype about Kristen Tatar, that's only because she played in the U.S. this year. Evelina is the champ in Europe. Evelina's the one who's played the best in the U.S. for the most part. I mean, you got to give credit to Kristen Tatar. She won the major. Yep. She won the U.S. Women's. But look, I think Evelina's just, more in like the top tier. And Missy Gannon for me is in tier 2.
Okay. Do you think if I change it, make it Henna Blumrose?
That's more
okay. Henna and Missy then.
Henna, but it's close.
Okay. I think you're right about the Evelina pick, but I take Missy over Henna this year. And I think the biggest reason why is in Missy's confidence. Because, sorry, Henna, you got beat all season long last year by Evelina, and you come over to the U.S., and who do you see? The first person you see is Evelina, and then you've also got Kristen and Paige and Katrina and Haley and Kona and Missy.
Put some respect on Henna Blumers' name, though. She won the European Disc Golf Championship this year.
Okay, so
after a crazy meltdown from Evelina Salonen.
That meltdown was bad. That was so crazy.
She also won Finnish National.
Okay, so Henna is a great player. Don't get me wrong. I think Henna is going to be competing for wins and would not be surprised if she takes down an Elite Series. That being said, Missy Gannon, I feel like, comes off these 2 wins feeling validated. Feeling like she has what it takes to compete with the best of the best. And yes, the Europeans weren't there. But it to come from Europe and come over to the US, I think can make you feel like, oh boy, my task just got even harder. For the US, it still feels like the disc golf world revolved around here. So for Missy, there's no question to her that what she did was earned and that she played spectacularly. And I think that confidence is something that is really critical and oftentimes undervalued. And I think she's going to carry it into next season.
I love that. Henna and Evelina are both in the 970s.
Okay.
Missy Gannon, 955.
It's an underdog
Just
pick.
want to put it out there. I think there's some European rating inflation going on right now. You know, the price of milk is going up. So is the price of ratings in
Isn't the price of ratings going down in Europe?
Yeah,
it's a bad analogy.
The same thing. I screwed it up. I blew it. You get
rating
the point.
Points are worth as much as Venezuelan currency over there.
Last question for today's show. Does anybody win multiple majors next year? And if so, who?
Doubling down again. Rickie. I think Rickie is going to win Champions Cup and USDGC.
Wow.
There it is. I think that he breaks the curse at USDGC this year, and W.R. Jackson and that grind just feels an early season Rickie is so good. It was so good last year. I mean, he came out ready to play, and I think he does it again, and this is the year he beats USDGC. I think Rickie does it.
Am I a crazy person to say Haley King?
Ooh. I love that pick, though.
I feel like W.R. Jackson, like she could be really good.
Yeah.
She's a little roller coastery.
The four round major could benefit her then. You know, and how many is
I think Paige or Haley has a good shot at it. MPO side, I mean, I really just, if I'm picking somebody, I'm probably picking Paul.
Okay.
I mean, come on. Like, the guy just shows up and plays awesome at the majors every time. Almost did it this year with only 2 majors.
But a long-haired, envy-thrown man.
But I could see an MPO, nobody wins too.
Oh, completely agree. Completely, definite possibility. I think an FPO, when I look at the pool of major, who I think are likely major candidates. MPO, you got Paul, Rickie, Calvin, Eagle, Kyle Klein. I think you need to add in there. Chris,
Kevin Jones,
possibly Kevin Jones, or maybe Nico, but
Matt Oram?
Matt Oram. I put Matt Oram in that group. So what? 9 guys maybe. FPO, I don't see it as much different. Paige, Katrina, Evelina, Henna, Kristen, Haley King, Missy Gannon, Sarah Hokum, Kona Panis. I think the top group is closer and more competitive in FPO than it is in MPO. It's bigger.
Wow, that's an interesting conversation we should have on another day.
We'll table
because that was not true 3 or 4 years ago, but it might be now.
And so I would love to look at ratings, average finishes. Let's compare all those stats and see.
Let's put it on our minds. That's going to do it for today's show. Tomorrow in our subscriber bonus segment, we'll be talking about what we're thankful for. We'll give a quick blurb on our Thursday show. We're going to go into a little bit more deep detail on tomorrow's show. So Joe, love to have you join us as a subscriber. discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. That is going to do it for today's show. We'll see you Thursday. Send in your what you're thankful for to upshot@ultiworld.com. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you on Thursday.